What if chasing your biggest dream could cost you everything? Welcome to the world of the Great Gatsby, a dazzling story of love, ambition, and the dark side of the American dream. Scott Fitzgerald's masterpiece takes us inside the roaring 1920s, where glittering parties hide heartbreak, and a mysterious man named Gatsby is willing to risk it all for a love that might never be his. But how far can you go to rewrite your past? And at what price? Let's dive into the life, secrets, and tragedy of Jay Gatsby, where dreams shine bright, but the truth is far more complicated. So welcome to the Read Glow channel. Do you like, comment, and subscribe? Let's back to the video. Chapter 1. The novel opens with Nick Carraway, the narrator, introducing himself. He comes from a wealthy family in the Midwest, but has moved to Long Island's West Egg to start a career in the bond business. Nick describes himself as someone who reserves judgment, which allows him to be a good listener and observer. Nick rents a modest house in West Egg, a community where new money people live, contrasted with East Egg, home to the old aristocracy. His cousin Daisy Buchanan and her husband Tom live in East Egg in an elaborate mansion. Nick visits him for dinner and is introduced to Jordan Baker, a professional golfer and Daisy's friend. During dinner, Nick senses tension. Tom is aggressive and arrogant. Daisy is charming but somewhat melancholy, and Jordan is cynical. Daisy expresses dissatisfaction with her life, revealing her emotional vulnerability. Tom discusses his racist views and boasts about his physical power. Jordan tells Nick about Tom's mistress in New York, hinting at the moral decay beneath the wealthy surface. The chapter ends with Nick returning home and noticing Gatsby for the first time. Gatsby is standing on a lawn, staring intently across the bay at a green light on Daisy's dock. This green light becomes a powerful symbol in the novel, representing Gatsby's hopes and dreams. Themes introduced here include class differences, wealth, and the emptiness beneath the glittering surface of the jazz age. Nick's position as an outsider gives the reader a lens to view the extravagance and moral ambiguity of the characters. Chapter 2. Nick describes the area between West Egg and New York City known as a Valley of Ashes, a desolate industrial wasteland representing decay and moral corruption. The valley is overseen by the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg, a faded billboard, symbolizing the idea of an absent or indifferent God watching over the desolation. Nick travels to New York with Tom Buchanan and meets Tom's mistress, Myrtle Wilson, who lives in the Valley of Ashes with her husband George, a struggling mechanic. Tom insists on bringing Nick along for a weekend visit, where Myrtle's vulgar behavior contrasts sharply with the polished world of East Egg. They go to an apartment Tom keeps in the city for his affair. A small party ensues with Myrtle, her sister Catherine, and a couple of other friends. The atmosphere is loud, chaotic, and filled with drinking and careless behavior. Myrtle behaves pretentiously, trying to imitate the sophistication of Tom's world, but she is ultimately out of place. Tom's violent temper surfaces when Myrtle repeatedly mentions Daisy's name. He hits Myrtle, breaking her nose in a sudden outburst. This shocking moment highlights the brutality lurking beneath Tom's polished facade and the cruelty inherent in the class and power dynamics of the story. The chapter underscores the moral decay hidden behind the glittering facade of wealth. It contrasts the stark realities of the poor with the careless extravagance of the rich. Myrtle's desperation and Tom's cruelty reveal the dark side of the American dream and the corrupting influence of wealth and privilege. Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is centered on one of Gatsby's legendary parties, which are extravagant, wild, and a defining symbol of the roaring 20s excess. Nick receives an invitation to Gatsby's party. Unlike most guests who just show up uninvited, the scene is vibrant with music, laughter, and flowing champagne. Fitzgerald vividly captures the chaotic glamour and restless energy of these social gatherings. As Nick arrives at Gatsby's mansion, he is struck by the opulence and size of the estate. The guests are mostly wealthy strangers who come to indulge in the spectacle. Many attendees don't even know Gatsby personally. They simply come for the entertainment. The party is filled with rumors about Gatsby. Some say he's a German spy, others a murderer, and some say he is an Oxford man. These mysterious stories add to Gatsby's allure and enigmatic reputation. Nick finally meets Gatsby himself and is surprised by his quiet, polite demeanor, which contrasts sharply with the wild atmosphere of the party. Gatsby is surprisingly young and somewhat reserved, with a smile that leaves a lasting impression. Gatsby's warmth and kindness stand out amid the careless behavior of his guests. Nick also reconnects with Jordan Baker at the party. Jordan tells Nick that Gatsby is in love with Daisy Buchanan and has been throwing these parties hoping she might one day show up. This adds a romantic, almost tragic dimension to Gatsby's lavish lifestyle. The parties are more than mere indulgence. They are a way to reach Daisy. The chapter also explores Nick's reflections on the superficiality and carelessness of the wealthy crowd. Many guests behave irresponsibly, drinking excessively and not respecting Gatsby's generosity. The novel critiques this era's moral decay hidden beneath glittering surfaces. The party ends with a mysterious car accident, symbolizing the recklessness of the era. The chapter concludes with Nick's observation that Gatsby's dream, while dazzling, is fragile and perhaps doomed. Themes of illusion versus reality, the emptiness behind wealth, and the longing for the past emerge strongly. Gatsby's grand parties are metaphors for the American dream's promise and its ultimate hollowness. Chapter 4. Chapter 4 shifts focus as Nick gives a detailed account of Gatsby's background and their developing acquaintance. Early in the chapter, Gatsby invites Nick to lunch in New York City. On the way, Gatsby shares stories about his life, claiming to come from a wealthy family in the Midwest and having been educated at Oxford. He tells Nick about his military service in World War I and his extensive travels across Europe. However, these stories feel rehearsed and somewhat suspicious to Nick. During the lunch, Gatsby introduces Nick to Meyer Wolfsheim, a shady and influential character who is rumored to be involved in organized crime and was responsible for fixing the 1919 World Series. This connection further muddies Gatsby's background and suggests that his wealth may not be entirely legitimate. After lunch, Nick encounters Tom Buchanan unexpectedly on the street. Tom shares a disturbing piece of news. Gatsby is involved with Daisy and wants to reunite with her. This information raises tension and sets the stage for the coming conflict. Back at West Egg, Nick learns more about Gatsby's past from Jordan Baker. She reveals that Gatsby and Daisy were once in love before Gatsby went to fight in the war. Gatsby bought his mansion across the bay from Daisy's home in East Egg to be near her. Over the years, he has built his fortune, partly through questionable means, with the sole purpose of winning Daisy back. Jordan explains that Gatsby wants Nick to arrange a meeting between him and Daisy, which Nick agrees to despite some reservations. This sets the central romantic plot in motion. This chapter explores themes of identity and reinvention, highlighting Gatsby's crafted persona and the mystery surrounding his wealth and past. Gatsby's desire to recreate the past and restore his love with Daisy reflects a broader theme of the elusive American dream, suggesting that the dream is based on illusion and self-delusion. The chapter also emphasizes a contrast between Gatsby's hopeful idealism and the harsh reality of the world around him, including the corruption and moral ambiguity represented by characters like Wolfsheim and Tom Buchanan. Overall, Chapter 4 builds suspense and deepens the intrigue around Gatsby's character, while setting up the emotional and narrative stakes for the rest of the novel. Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is a pivotal moment in the novel where Gatsby finally reunites with Daisy, the woman he had been longing for. Nick agrees to help Gatsby arrange a meeting with Daisy at his own modest home, and Gatsby is extremely nervous and anxious about the encounter, revealing a rare vulnerability. Gatsby's nervousness contrasts with the confident, lavish persona he usually projects. He even sends over a greenhouse full of flowers to prepare for Daisy's arrival, underscoring how important and monumental this moment is for him. When Daisy arrives, there's an awkward and tense beginning. At first, the reunion feels uncomfortable, as if the years and changes between them create a barrier. However, as Gatsby shows Daisy around his mansion, the atmosphere gradually warms. Gatsby's wealth and grandeur overwhelm Daisy, who seems impressed and almost enchanted by his lifestyle. The chapter highlights Gatsby's dream of recreating the past, to recapture the love and happiness he once shared with Daisy. He is obsessed with the idea that time can be turned back and that Daisy will leave her life with Tom to be with him. Gatsby's hope is both touching and tragic, because it is built on idealism rather than reality. Nick observes a reunion with a mixture of amusement and sympathy. He senses that Gatsby's dream is fragile, and that the reality of the situation may not live up to Gatsby's expectations. The rain during their meeting symbolizes the emotional intensity and the cleansing or renewal that Gatsby hopes for. By the end of the chapter, the weather clears, mirroring the temporary hope and optimism Gatsby feels. This chapter also underscores the theme of illusion versus reality, showing how Gatsby's idealized vision of Daisy clashes with the real complexities of her character and life. Gatsby's mansion, wealth, and parties are all part of the illusion he has created to impress Daisy, but the question remains whether their love can survive outside that fantasy. Overall, Chapter 5 is a turning point in the story. The long-awaited reunion occurs, but also reveals the fragility of Gatsby's dream and the inevitable tension between past and present. Chapter 6. Chapter 6 delves deeper into Gatsby's mysterious past and explores how his relentless pursuit of wealth and status is tied to his dream of winning Daisy. The narrative reveals Gatsby's real background. He was born James Gatz, the son of poor farmers in North Dakota. Dissatisfied with his modest origins, he reinvented himself as Jay Gatsby, a wealthy and polished gentleman. At 17, Gatsby was determined to make something of himself. He met Dan Cody, a wealthy copper magnate, and worked for him as a yacht hand. Although Gatsby never inherited Cody's fortune, this experience exposed him to the glamorous lifestyle he craved. This revelation emphasizes Gatsby's self-made myth and the lengths he went to reshape his identity. As Gatsby's parties grow more popular, Tom Buchanan becomes increasingly suspicious and hostile toward him. Tom attends one of Gatsby's parties, where he is disdainful of the nouveau riche atmosphere and the crowd's behavior. This visit marks a shift, as Gatsby's world starts to collide more directly with the established old money elite. Meanwhile, Daisy feels uncomfortable and out of place at Gatsby's party. Unlike the guests who come for hedonistic pleasure, Daisy's presence highlights the social divide between Gatsby's wealth and the old money aristocracy represented by the Buchanans. She expresses disapproval of the party's vulgarity, which contrasts with Gatsby's hopeful vision of impressing her. The chapter also explores Gatsby's desire to turn back time. He is obsessed with recapturing the past he shared with Daisy and erasing the years when they were apart. This fixation blinds him to reality, as Nick reflects that no one can repeat the past, no matter how much Gatsby believes otherwise. Tension builds as the characters' different values and social classes clash. Gatsby represents hope, dreams, and reinvention, while Tom embodies tradition, power, and cynicism. Daisy is caught between these worlds, uncertain of where she belongs. Chapter 6 highlights the fragility of Gatsby's dream and foreshadows the impending conflicts. The narrative tone becomes more critical, hinting that Gatsby's idealism may be doomed in the harsh realities of class and society. Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is one of the most intense and dramatic chapters in The Great Gatsby, where tensions between the main characters explode, revealing the deep conflicts beneath the surface. The summer has become unbearably hot. Mirroring the rising heat of emotions, Gatsby has stopped throwing his extravagant parties, focusing all his attention on Daisy, who is visibly restless and dissatisfied with her life. Nick observed that Gatsby's dream of rekindling his romance with Daisy is approaching a critical moment. On a particularly hot afternoon, Nick, Gatsby, Daisy, Tom, and Jordan Baker decide to go into the city together. The trip is heavy with underlying tension. At a suite in a New York hotel, Tom confronts Gatsby about his relationship with Daisy, accusing him of trying to steal her. The confrontation exposes the class divisions and Tom's contempt for Gatsby's new money status. Tom challenges Gatsby's claim of having been to Oxford, mocking his background and questioning the legitimacy of his fortune. Gatsby responds confidently but nervously, revealing his desperation to prove himself worthy of Daisy. Daisy is torn between Gatsby and Tom, unable to clearly choose. Tom's aggressive behavior and Gatsby's idealism clash violently. The scene reveals the complexities of their relationships, Tom's arrogance and control, Gatsby's romantic obsession, and Daisy's indecision and vulnerability. After the confrontation, the group drives back to Long Island. On the way, Gatsby and Daisy are in Gatsby's car, while Tom and Jordan follow in Tom's car. Tragedy strikes when Daisy, driving Gatsby's car, accidentally hits and kills Myrtle Wilson, Tom's mistress. Myrtle had run out onto the road. Thinking Tom was driving, the chapter ends with the aftermath of the accident, full of tension and uncertainty. Gatsby is willing to take the blame to protect Daisy, showing the depth of his devotion. Meanwhile, George Wilson, Myrtle's husband, is devastated and desperate for answers, setting the stage for further tragedy. Chapter 7 is crucial for its revelations and turning points. The illusions that Gatsby and others have built begin to crumble under the weight of reality. Themes of love, power, social class, and moral decay are fully exposed. The chapter's intensity sets up the tragic climax of the novel, making it a key moment in the unraveling of Gatsby's dream. Chapter 8. Chapter 8 is a somber and pivotal chapter, focusing on the aftermath of the car accident and the unraveling of Gatsby's dream. The emotional and moral consequences of the previous chapter's events become clear. Nick visits Gatsby early in the morning, finding him restless and sleepless. Gatsby shares more of his past and expresses his unwavering hope that Daisy will leave Tom and be with him. Despite everything that has happened, Gatsby remains deeply devoted and clings to the idealized version of their relationship. Meanwhile, the novel shifts to George Wilson's tragic situation. Consumed by grief and suspicion over Myrtle's death, George is desperate to find out who is driving the car that killed her. Tom Buchanan deceitfully directs George's suspicion toward Gatsby, manipulating the situation to protect himself and Daisy. The Valley of Ashes becomes a symbolic place of despair, where George's suffering contrasts starkly with Gatsby's fading dream. George's sense of justice and his desire for retribution lead him down a dark path. The climax of the chapter comes when George, acting on Tom's insinuations, goes to Gatsby's mansion. There, he finds Gatsby swimming in his pool, unaware of the danger approaching. George shoots Gatsby, killing him, before taking his own life. This tragic ending highlights the destructive consequences of the character's choices and the corrupting influence of wealth, power, and deception. Gatsby, who built his life on dreams and illusions, meets a lonely and violent death. Nick's reaction to Gatsby's death is one of sorrow and disillusionment. He feels the emptiness of the world Gatsby tried to conquer and recognizes the moral decay behind the glittering facade of wealth and success. Chapter 8 underscores the novel's central themes: the impossibility of recapturing the past, the destructive nature of the American dream when tied to materialism and illusion, and the stark divisions between social classes. Gatsby's death serves as a powerful and tragic conclusion to his story, symbolizing the failure of his idealism and the harsh realities of the society in which he lived. Chapter 9. Chapter 9 serves as the novel's poignant conclusion, focusing on the aftermath of Gatsby's death and the lasting impact of his life and dream. Nick Carraway takes on the responsibility of settling Gatsby's affairs and reflecting on the events that transpired. After Gatsby's murder, Nick is shocked by the absence of genuine friends or loved ones who come forward to mourn him. Despite Gatsby's lavish parties filled with hundreds of guests, almost no one is willing to attend his funeral or express true sorrow. This highlights the superficiality and loneliness at the core of Gatsby's social world. Nick arranges a funeral, but only a few people, like Gatsby's father, Henry C. Gatz, and a few servants, attend. Gatsby's father is proud of his son's achievements and shares a glimpse of Gatsby's ambitious youth, reinforcing the theme of self-made identity. Nick grows disillusioned with the East Coast elite. He despises the carelessness of people like Tom and Daisy Buchanan, who retreat into their wealth and leave destruction behind without facing consequences. He realizes that Gatsby's dream, though flawed and based on illusions, was more noble than the shallow lives of the established wealthy class. Before leaving New York, Nick encounters Tom Buchanan. Their conversation reveals Tom's selfishness and lack of remorse for his role in Gatsby's demise. This encounter confirms Nick's decision to sever ties with the East and return to the Midwest. The novel ends with Nick's famous meditation on the American dream and the past. He reflects on Gatsby's extraordinary hope and ambition, symbolized by the green light at the end of Daisy's dock. Nick compares Gatsby's dream to the universal human desire to reach for something better, something just out of reach. The closing lines of the novel evoke a bittersweet tone, suggesting that the pursuit of dreams is both beautiful and tragic. Gatsby's life and death encapsulate the novel's central themes: the illusions of the American dream, the passage of time, and the complexities of love and identity. In the end, The Great Gatsby is a cautionary tale about ambition, love, and the harsh realities beneath the glittering surface of wealth and glamour. Jay Gatsby's story is a haunting reminder that some dreams are too fragile to survive the harsh light of reality. In his relentless pursuit of love and status, Gatsby shows us the bittersweet truth about the American dream, that it can inspire greatness but also lead to destruction. If you found this journey into Gatsby's world as captivating as I did, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives into literary classics, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a story that changes the way you see the world. What's your take on Gatsby's dream? Was he a hopeless romantic or a tragic fool? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.